Audrey Wright Peterman, welcome to Profile.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
We're absolutely delighted to have you because you have such a wonderful story. In fact, you are now the author of a new book that details that story called From My Jamaican Gully to the World and Back. And
Yes.
really, it's about a story about a quarter century of environmental activism. You've worked for a number of different kind of agencies, and I just want to set that out for my listeners. For The Gleaner,
Yes.
you've served in the United States, the National Parks Conservation Association,
Yes.
the Association of Partners for Public Lands, the National Parks Promotion Council, Delaware North Corporation's Parks and Resorts Diversity Advisory Committee, which is still going on, a founding member of the South Florida Community Partners, Keeping It Wild, and Greening Youth Foundation out of Atlanta. When you look at all of these different kinds of things that you've done and all of these different kinds of capacities in which you've served, how do you feel? How do you describe the journey?
I really feel fantastic and so blessed and privileged to be here at the age of 71, baby, and feeling accomplished, feeling like I've been able to contribute to society, and I certainly am excited about the possibility of contributing more to my country.
Now, that's interesting to me because there's a part in your book where you talk about, it's almost sort of, I would say, a mirror of a statement that I often make, which is how you grow up connects with where you are right now. In fact, you talked about a moment when you kind of were like, oh, wow, I'm completely full circle.
Yes.
What was that moment? Can you describe it for a few?
So I'm fortunate enough to be married to the most wonderful man in the world. His name is Frank, right? He's American, and he grew up in segregated America, if you can believe that. And so his lifelong dream was to buy a boat, a sailboat, and we'd go sailing around the world. So we bought the boat and planned to do that, but my mom took ill, and so we couldn't go. We had to stay in close proximity. And one day, I was sitting on the stern of the boat and looking down into the water, and I saw all these needlefish, and I felt like Rip Van Winkle. I was like, wait a minute.
I've been here before.
Day, right? Just the other day, I was down in Summerfield, sitting on the banks of my gully, looking in the water at the fish, you know, the janga and stuff. And what happened to the time in between? Here I am doing it again 60-something years later. Yeah.
So
it was amazing.
Let's talk about that beginning right there, because
Yes.
you said the gully was a big part of your life.
Totally.
But first of all, what do you mean by that?
Well, I did not realize until after I'd written the book that gully has a twofold meaning in Jamaica. Some people who were raised in cities think of gully as that culvert, you know, with garbage and dirty water.
Yes.
Oh my God. My gully in Clarendon was a sweet flowing stream coming down from the mountains. I don't even know where it came from, but it ran right behind my yard. And I had a deep hole right behind my house. So that meant all the children in the village wanted to come and, you know, splash around in there and play. And we had a mango tree that hung over that. And so mango would drop into the water and we'd chase each other for the mangoes. But always there was a feeling that there was enough for everybody, right? So I had that kind of carefree setting and that love for my gully. But it was really when I sat by myself on the banks of the gully, you know, as a child, just daydreaming, feeling the wind on my face, listening to the sound of the birds, you know, in the bush, you know, as they scratched around, and looking in the gully. And I think that's when I become totally attached to nature.
And part of
nature
this was
attached
also
to me.
the connection with your grandmother, because you grew up with your grandparents.
Yes.
What kind of relationship did you have with them? And later on, we'll talk a little bit about your parents.
My grandmother was my idol. I totally imprinted on her. I mean, she was perfect in every way to me. And she was not a particularly well-educated woman, you know, a country lady. And my mom had me when she was quite young. I was the product of a dalliance between my teenage mom and a much older, well-to-do gentleman on the other side of town. So I kind of had that cachet in the village as Master Wright daughter, but at the same time, I couldn't go to Master Wright house.
Yes.
But my grandmother and my grandfather had such a strong reputation in the community that I really had I tell people I grew up in that village that it takes to raise a child. I had so much love and acceptance.
What was your grandmother teaching you about what it meant to be a person in the world? What were the lessons? How was she teaching you?
You know what? By doing. By doing. She was so resourceful. All right, so my grandmother would go down, we would walk in the gully and pick, I don't know if you know coca leaf.
Yes.
When it's stored on the inside and it's delicate and soft. And she would pick breadfruit, dig yam, pick orange, pick everything to come home.
She could do everything.
Everything to come home and, put the pot in the wattle and daub kitchen and cook dinner. And it was so delicious. And I never even knew the concept of being poor, even though we didn't have money, etc. My grandmother taught me by doing. My grandmother cooked everything we had in the house every day in case somebody was passing and came by and was hungry. And in fact, some people timed it so that they just happened to be coming by when they knew the pot was coming off the fire. And she never criticized. She taught me by example to be loving and kind. And she showed me that she had such a belief in God that I never feared anything. I never feared that I would not be taken care of or that I would be vulnerable in any way.
And you said at the same time that you didn't understand yourself to be poor, but you write about those circumstances in the book right now.
Yes.
Can you describe them?
Yes. So, we had a outside bathroom. And, of course, all the children made sure you didn't have to go to the bathroom at night, As I described, my grandmother collected things from the yard and from what we call it, the grong, right, to cook. So I knew that there was not a profusion of money, but I had everything that I needed. And I feel like, to a large extent, the other people that grew up with me in my neighborhood had everything that they needed too, because the community pulled together. And so we felt safe and accepted and provided for. There was nothing that we needed that we didn't have, even though there was not a superabundance of money.
She also set a particular kind of example for you in a different kind of way, because at a point she had to make a decision about leaving.
Yes.
Leaving the community in which you grew up in Clarendon to set up a completely different kind of life. Explain what happened.
Well, I was about 7 years old the night that I woke up and heard my grandfather hitting my grandmother. And that really blew my mind because he had never hit me and I'd never seen him hit anybody before. Anyway, so they were having this interaction. And so I ran into the room and I grabbed him by the leg. I was 7 years old and I started hitting him on the legs, right? And he turned around and he took off his belt and slapped me. He gave me quite a few good licks because he said that if I was older, I would probably be attacking him for my grandmother. So anyway, I don't know what happened the rest of the night, but I do know that the following day he left and went to work. And in the middle of the night, he came back in the evening, but in the middle of the night, my grandmother came to me and said, "Get up, we're leaving." And I'm like, "Leaving? We're leaving?" And we stole out in the middle of the night in the dark with a little buckle lamp torch. And I don't know how she had organized it because we didn't have any phones or cell phones, but she had gotten a relative, a member of her family, to come and pick us up. And we went farther down into the village where her people were, closer to Summerfield.
I want to talk a little bit about how life continued to develop after that, and also the role of your mother. But we have to go to a break.
Yes.
We're taking a break now on Profile, as I said. My guest is author and environmentalist Audrey Wright Peterman. Profile returns right after these messages.